You go, no, you said you could prove it scientifically. Now I'm asking you to do just that. Was it just a magic word that you used to allude to having proof when you don't actually know what the word means? The claim is there's a physical hill getting in the way based on us being on a sphere. Well, that physical hill has been debunked. Now they tell us it's refraction. It's that simple. Okay. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What is it?
Well, how would science doesn't prove things, is what I'm told by many people. But why would you ask for such a thing if science doesn't prove things?
I'm only asking based on the standards that are told to us when being told that there is proof of evidence. We were told that there's scientific evidence for gravity and that the whole body of science proves we're on a sphere. So we were presented with the notion of there being scientific evidence for this model of a sphere in a heliocentric, sun-centric world.
Well,
Why are
if
we
it
asking for
isn't
scientific
evident-
evidence is your question, John. We're asking for scientific evidence because we're told there's science for this stuff. So when someone says there's science for it, or I can prove that scientifically, we say, okay, go on then. And they go, what? You go, you say you can prove that scientifically. Go on then. Let's see how you prove it scientifically. What did you do? What was the method? What did you do to prove it scientifically? And suddenly we get told that they're richer than we are. That they've got a better car, or more popularity, or more viewers. You go, no, you said you could prove it scientifically. Now I'm asking you to do just that. Was it just a magic word that you used to allude to having proof when you don't actually know what the word means? Yeah, it was. It's just the typical con artist ball-believing move to convince you that they've got some proof for the shit that they claim. No, you haven't got any proof for your gravity. So you saying you've got scientific evidence for it will just be met with me asking you to actually give it us. Or start by defining what science is, so we all know what scientific evidence will be, so when you present it, we'll know that it is what you say it is. And if you can't, we're going to wonder why you've used the word, why you've said science, why you've said you're proving things, when you don't really know what the word actually means. You've just used it because it convinces people who hear it that you've proven something. That's why it's used by our opponents, because they need to con their viewers and lie and scam their viewers into believing that the bullshit they peddle has actually got some proof attached to it. Now, they don't, half the time, even know what science means. So when they say they've got science, they, in their minds, think they have. They haven't. It's that simple.
So,
that's why we ask for it.
That's a double-edged sword.
Why?
Indeed, it's a double-edged sword because they have said gravity's not a force. 107 years ago, it was. 107 years later, and for that length of time, it isn't. But they claimed science proved gravity. They never showed it prior to changing it from being a force to a non-force. So this is where people will say, see, they thought that gravity was a force, and science told them that. But then later, science told them it wasn't a force. Look, wake up, everybody. They never used scientific method in the first place. Gravity is a hoax. Something drops doesn't mean gravity is there.
Like a helium balloon or clouds.
The reason I say it's a double-edged sword is because if you recognize that they're that what they're calling science isn't proof at all, you can come to the conclusion that science is not proving things, and that can hurt you as well if you come to that conclusion.
But precisely, that's where Jaron's at. So in that position, Jaron's 99% of the way, because he's already recognised that this word science, which he assumes is science, is being used to peddle deception, lies, fraud, scams, things that are not true, not proven. So when Jaron says, oh, science isn't proving anything, it's because so many people claiming to have science aren't proving anything and just don't actually have science. But you can understand how that would, on the surface level, seem like, well, everybody who's saying they've got science is claiming to be proving things, and they're not. I can show how they're wrong. Therefore, science doesn't prove anything. Well, no, the only reason they were saying they'd got science was to steal the valor of the method that's empirical, because that does prove things. They hadn't, so they just used the word to make you think that they had. It's that simple. So while I won't necessarily go through that with Jaron when I'm talking with him hopefully tomorrow, my intention will be to just explain how the logic of the method, that's hypothesis construction, not the physicality of the independent or dependent variable, no examples of boiling water, but simply the logic therein. The logic of if A, then B, or if A, not B. You can't have both be true. It violates the law of non-contradiction, and the only way you find out which one is true is to vary A, and it'll either cause B or not cause B. In which case you can...
That's why I bring it up.
Say again.
That's why I bring it up, because where he has addressed you as a scammer for using science, right? Or saying scientific method proves things, you could use that as your way in to showing him how the method actually does prove things, you know, and just kind of walking down the path he's already gone down, that these people that say science aren't proving things, but why are they saying it? And then show them why they're saying it with your
no, I'm not. My attempts won't be that lofty either. Simple. My attempt is, here's the logic and why it offers empiricism. Here is the infallible logic and how it works. That's it. That's the only thing I want to achieve. Baby steps. I've already done the try and incorporate all of the scientific method with examples of experiments that are being used by Bob Nodell in the form of Michelson-Morley, and how they're not experiments because they don't adhere to the method. They don't have an independent and dependent variable. Even if they did, they'd be showing how Coriolis doesn't show we've got Earth drifting underneath at 15 degrees an hour, because if the Earth did turn under the gyro to cause, pendulum, or whatever, to cause the drift at 15 degrees an hour, then Earth would be turning underneath planes. And that's what I tried to do with Globebusters. Right, let's just take a big step back and go, no. Let's start from the beginning. What's the issue? Okay. Based on every single shyster charlatan claiming they got science when they haven't, Jaron's under the misapprehension that pseudoscience, which is what it actually is, doesn't prove things. I shouldn't have said misapprehension. Under the apprehension, because he's correct in that regard, he's just got the word wrong. Because science does prove things. The pseudoscience he's been exposed to all his life, masquerading as science, does not. Once that distinction's drawn, my hope is that it can be drawn by the empiricism offered within the logic. If A, then B, or if A, not B, is a logic gate. Something that you could put into a computer and then feed it the variable, the thing that will vary, to cause the effect that you are induced, or not cause the effect. And upon doing it, it travels through the logic seamlessly, perfectly. At that point, how can you argue? How can Jaron argue with the logic embedded in the hypothesis? You can't. It's logic. Yeah? Suitable for dumb-ass computers to wrap their heads around. No thought required. A process. a binary, idiotic computer could comport to. That's what I'm going to stick to. When I said it to yesterday, QE's response was, what, second grade level? Unfortunately, if you want to put it in that way, yes. But through 30 or 40 years of brainwashing, indoctrination and shyster liars claiming they got science when they haven't, it's easy to understand why you fall off the beaten track of that second grade education that you understood to realise why it would be useful to claim you got science when you haven't. Because it proves things. Hopefully that'll be next step. First step, here's how the logic works. If he says, that's wrong, okay, that exposes you to your audience as being stupid then. Because there's no arguing with this logic. It is infallible. It's sound. It's logical. It's consistent. It's a method. There's a process to the logic. Once you understand that, logic only, you don't have to necessarily apply it to science. The logic itself stands alone as true because it has a consistency to it. It's not fallacious, it's just logical. That's what it's based on. Therein, if A, then B, or if A, not B. Therein lies the empiricism. If you can't understand that as an audience member or Jaron when I talk to him, then I will concede. No worries. There is no communicating this to you at this time, for whatever reason. I will attempt again, I will endeavour to progress this community through our illustrious leader Jaron Campanella by way of another attempt in the future, when hopefully all issues that have precluded him from absorbing this logic have been eradicated. And then we will try again, and again, and again, until he gets it. And Dave gets it, and anybody else who's in this community gets it. Yeah? Science has advanced every single one of us. The only reason we're talking on these computers is because of the empiricism offered via the scientific method that offered us quantum mechanics and the computers we all use. The only reason a lot of us are still alive is because somebody in their history has been benefited from the scientific method offering their predecessors medicinal assistance with empiricism behind it, offered from the scientific method. In other words, this method has advanced humanity. I'll be damned if I give up on flat earthers who just say no. No, I won't accept that. There might be a better explanation that comes beyond this logic that has an end point. Once you prove A does cause B, it cannot simultaneously not be the cause of B. It doesn't work. Likewise, if you vary A and it doesn't cause the thing you're studying, it will never ever cause it. It won't be the case that you go move down the road 5 years and go, actually I varied A, and it suddenly does cause it. No, that's not how this works. It either causes it or it doesn't, and when you vary, you find out. And when you find out, you've made a prediction. A will cause B. It did. Tick. Proven. Done. It's never going to not cause the effect. You're never going to heat water and it not boil. Right? That is how it works. You apply the heat, the water boils. Now, if you can show me a scenario where you stick a flame under water and then it never boils, yeah? Well, then you'll be violating the law of non-contradiction. You'll be throwing into dispute or disrepute every scientific validity that's ever been offered through this logic. Because suddenly the law of non-contradiction stands. It can't, it won't, it's never going to happen. But that would be the case.
Can't force feed anybody, though.
Suddenly you have something being the cause of something, you heat water and it boils. But also, just remember, just so you don't mistake what's going on here, because we live in a world of contradiction, you could also heat the water and it never boil. Really? I thought I heated it and it boiled. No, we have a world, a universe of contradictions where heat will cause water to boil and it also won't cause it to boil. Yeah, that's never going to be the case. That's where the logic lies. If A, then B. If heat, then water boiling. Also, null, zero difference result. If heat, water not boiling. That's what you'd have to show. You'd have to validate the other half of the hypothesis. Not, well, if I put a crock pot in the equation, well, then you've got a different variable. You don't understand what independent means. Independent variable means it's the single solitary thing that's varied in the experiment to offer the empiricism that the method provides. Not, well, if I vary the crock pot and the heat, independent variable on its own, alone. Again, a lack of understanding of the method itself will lead you to ask questions about other variables, what beyond the independent one that you're testing. You don't understand the method if you're asking me about other external forces that aren't being held constant as a constant variable in this particular experiment. That would be to say you're varying heat to try and induce the phenomena of water boiling. Now, if you introduce it and it validates the null, that would be to say that you apply heat to water and it doesn't boil. That's the only two outcomes based on a valid scientific prediction. Nothing about crock pots, nothing about acid content. One singular independent variable will be tested. to see and validate if that is the cause of the effect, or, like in my hypothesis, not the cause of the effect. That one variable. And upon varying that one variable with all else held constant, you'll validate the zero difference result or the alternative. One or other will be proven. It's the only outcome. You can't have neither be proven, because neither being proven violates the law of non-contradiction. Neither being proven, well, A didn't cause the effect, or A didn't not cause the effect either. It's absurd. It is an impossibility built within the empiricism of the hypothesis. A causes B, or A doesn't cause B. Both can't be true, and only A, singular, independent on its own alone, will be tested in an experiment. That's what I need to get across. How the logic of if A then B, or if A not B, is empirical, will offer an empirical outcome as a predictive statement with logic attached. There you go. That's my rant. That's what I'll be discussing. That probably took the 10 minutes I practiced or hoped that the dissemination of the information will take place when I repeat it almost verbatim tomorrow.